want to talk today about creating inner personal oracles. And what I mean by that is using imagery or words to create oracles, oracle decks, oracle cards, or just single oracle images to reflect personally us as users. So, art magic is so cool and so much fun to work with. And honestly, anybody, no matter what level of artistic skill, can participate in creating their own personal oracle. There are so many different types of oracles. The most basic kind are just like these angel cards, where single things have been written down, a single word happiness with a little blurb beneath it. And this is the sort of thing that anyone could really just write down on a piece of paper or simple card stock. I think you guys get the idea. What most people will think of when they think of oracles are oracle cards. This is the oracle cards that I use. This is the enchanted map, and the artwork for this oracle deck is done by a really amazing, talented fantasy artist, Jenna Della Grataglia. I'll leave a link down so you can see what her work looks like in more detail. I really like this oracle because it has this really amazing sense of magical wonder and childlike awe throughout it, and it's also very connected with backgrounds and with space and creating magical inner landscapes. I think that's a really, really cool idea. So that's just some of the ones that I've been working with. But I've started to feel the constraints of using this deck. It's definitely mass market. And what I mean by that is it's intended to be to appeal broadly and to work very generally for anyone who picks it up. But I really want to try and go a little bit deeper and more personal with the imagery and really choose images which call to me personally and which I have various different connections with. So I started doing my own photo manipulation. I'm pretty fluent in Photoshop. I've used the program for a really long time, so that's the medium that I chose. But there are so many different ways that this can be done. You can write down single words on cards, and that's just a start. You can use painting. You can use cutouts from magazines. You can do collage work. You can go online and find artwork and just print it off and use that as a personal oracle. You can take oracle cards from different decks and mix and match them to create a hybrid deck. Now, in this, as much as I really like this oracle, there are a lot of cards in it. Well, not a lot, but a fair number, which just do not speak to me. And when I get them, I really just do not feel inspired to work with that card. You could work without imagery at all. You can write poetry, or you can take quotes from different people or different works of literature. You could take passages from your favorite book and take one book and create an oracle from the passages in that book. You could take the passages in the book and you could turn them into artwork. You could create a inner child oracle by working with crayons and paints that you used when you were a child. Wouldn't it be cool to have an oracle that's entirely done with finger painting? That would be cool. Now, for me, creating my oracle, I am not saying to myself that I need to create 54 different cards, go to a printer and print them out. That's a really intense goal to set. And it's one thing that I noticed with my Book of Shadow grimoire work, that when I say I want to do this giant project, especially with so many different things, the quality goes down, or I stop doing it altogether. So for the oracle, I've been working on it for months and months. I've been doing some images, and then I'll take a break, and then I'll come back to it. So some were from months ago, some I made yesterday, one I made this morning. So when I get to a point, and it's probably not going to be 54, it's probably going to be like 15, 20. Maybe I'll find a printer who can print them out on some cards. Or maybe, and this is a cool idea, I'll write a program that can do it on the computer or on my phone. Digital Oracle is an interesting concept that I think in the time that we live in now is worth exploring. Maybe not incorporating fully, but at least playing around with that concept. So, one aspect of creating your own oracle is that the method of creating that artwork, of infusing that process with magic and with interpretation of the art as a living, organic being which is being formed, you are already doing the process of oracle work. So you might base an oracle on an image or a smell or a color, an emotion, an idea, a memory. There are so many different things that you can come into that process with. You might have a really firm idea in mind. You might see an image and you say, I want to use her because she reminds me of inner strength. Or you might want to pick an image and say, she looks interesting. Maybe I'll use her in something, but I don't know what and I don't know how, and I'll just start drawing. And as you start drawing, maybe you go down the wrong path and you've been putting her into a library when she needs to be outside on a cliff somewhere. So you scrap it all, and all you keep is that one element, and you go back. And by the end of that process, you're going to have something which has meaning, an inner meaning. And because as an artist, as a person who is creating, who is suffusing that piece of art with inner intention, with conscious thought, when that card is completed, part of that journey will have already taken place. And when that comes up in a reading, that will be recalled, and that energy will still be a part of that. I think it's really interesting to create cards which are balanced. Maybe what I mean by that is you might have two cards which are mirror opposites, or yin and yang to one another. You might have a card for male deity and for female deity, for darkness or light. I think it's really important to include painful cards, disturbing cards, cards which explore inner problems, and not just focus on the cards which show growth. I think a lot of oracles tend to be, here's the lesson that you learn from this situation, where perhaps there isn't a lesson, and that can be acknowledged as well. The oracles that we create personally might have a theme. We might create several oracles for ourselves to explore different aspects of our journeys. We might create oracles in relation to specific pantheons. And when working with one pantheon, one might use that oracle over another, and that personal deity relationships can come forth in that oracle. Your oracle might not have a theme, and that's okay. It might be completely messy. You might grab a bunch of different cards from a bunch of decks and then throw in some ones that you drew yourself. And they might not all be the same size, and they might not be all the same shape. And I think that chaos could lead to some really interesting magical workings. Because when you go to a deck like that, you don't know how you're going to be approaching that working. You don't know what space you're going to be in. You don't know what sort of imagery you're going to get. And when that comes up, that adjustment and that jarring of self could be really useful. Your artwork doesn't have to be beautiful. You can make an oracle of ugly imagery. You can make an oracle of images which you dislike. You could create an oracle of just words which trouble you, or which you find to have a repressive meaning for you. I'm not sure how exactly you might work with these, but it's an interesting idea. The purpose of this video is just to get people thinking, and it's something that I'm really excited about, creating oracles. There's so many different ways that we can go about it, and I think that we're all completely different individuals, especially when it comes to art. And I think a lot of people tell themselves that I cannot do that, or you see someone who's created a piece of art, or they've made a really amazing book of shadows, and you think, mine's crap and I should give up. But that's the beauty of personal work like that, is it doesn't need to be compared to anything else. Your oracle does not need to compare to the ones which you have bought, which are done by professional artists and sold in your local spiritual shop. They don't need to compare to anything. The only thing that they need to do is speak on some level to an important metaphor or idea, relate to something specific. So if all that is a simple word written down, that's good enough. So I really want to thank you guys for sticking through this and maybe trying this yourself. I would love to see what other people have done with creating meditative or magical artwork. I'm going to end this video showing some of the cards which I've been working on, and they are very much in a specific style which I'd love to talk more about in another video. But for now, I think it's a really neat idea, and make some magical art.